Auburn football is dwindling down, basketball courts are heating up, Auburn soccer is headed to the swamp, and so much more. My name is Meredith Brito, and this is Tiger Tally. As the college football season is winding down, where does your team fall in the college football rankings? On Tuesday, the playoff committee released the new rankings after what can only be considered the weekend of upsets. Currently, the top 4 teams in the playoffs are at number 1, the University of Alabama, number 2, Ohio State University, number 3, University of Michigan, and at number 4, Clemson University. With only 2 weeks left of the college football regular season and a week of conference championships, the 4 playoff spots are very much up for grabs for any team to slide their way into the playoffs, when by the time the Final 4 are announced. Former Cleveland Browns quarterback Johnny Manziel reaches a tentative agreement to dismiss the domestic violence assault case. The original case was brought to light back in January of this year when Manziel's former girlfriend, Colleen Crowley, filed a charge against the former Texas A&M star, accusing him of kidnapping, hitting, and threatening her. Football not allowed? World-renowned surgeon Dr. James Andrews states that if football was invented today, it wouldn't be allowed to exist. Andrews has helped many athletes recover from various injuries and doesn't believe contact sport properly describes the game that leaves clients so broken. He describes the game of football as a collision sport, says, quote, "If we started a new sport today and we wrote up the rules and regulations and we called it football, they probably wouldn't allow it," end quote. Let's take a break and stay tuned to find out what has been going on in the world of Auburn sports. You're watching Tiger Tally on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
Auburn Guides is your guide to Auburn University. You can access schedules, create your own to-do lists, interact with friends, and always get the most up-to-date information. The Auburn Guides app gives access to information on the go so you never miss out. Auburn Guides is available for free on the Play Store and Apple App Store.
Welcome back. I'm Lauren Christopher. This is the College Block. Let's get to it. The soccer team headed down to the Swamp yesterday to compete in the Gainesville Regional. The Tigers will face off with the Huskies of Connecticut on Friday in the second round to try to advance to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA Regional. After dropping a 5-set match to the Alabama Crimson Tide, the volleyball team will be traveling to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Mizzou Tigers tomorrow. The team will then travel back to the Plains to take on South Carolina this Sunday. Switching courts, the women's basketball team will head to Greensboro, North Carolina to take on North Carolina A&T tonight. The Lady Tigers are looking to get a win and start 2-0 as they travel again to Greensville on Saturday as they take on East Carolina. The court is on fire. The men's basketball hosted Georgia State for their second game of the season.
The Auburn Tigers jumped into their first game of the Cancun Tournament Challenge Monday night, playing Georgia State in the Auburn Arena. Auburn started the game slowly, trailing State until there were only 11 minutes left in the first half. The Tigers entered their second half leading only 35-30. Paired with a hot shooting hand and Georgia State foul trouble, Auburn ran away with the game, winning 83-65. 10 Tigers scored, contributing to their victory. Auburn's freshmen continued to impress this season. Donjel Purifoy and Jared Harper led the Tigers with 19 points each, while Mustafa Herring led the Tigers with 8 rebounds.
We're a fairly, even though we play fast, we're a fairly complex system. There's a lot to learn because we press. And we press on the other basket out of bounds, and how many people do that? And we guard very multiple defensively, particularly man-to-man. And there's a lot of stuff offensively. So I've thrown a ton at this team really, really early. And we kind of slopped through a lot. But I'm very pleased. I thought we had great effort and energy. We do a little better job on the free throw line in the first half. I thought going in at halftime with the lead, having D'Angelo only played 3 minutes, was really significant.
Auburn will continue their journey in the Cancun Tournament Challenge on Thursday at home against Eastern Kentucky before traveling this weekend to Cancun to play Texas Tech. For Eagle Eye Sports, I'm Sarah Polcheski.
With that win, the Tigers are 2-0 for the first time since the 2011-2012 season. Their next game will be tonight at 8 against Eastern Kentucky. Auburn football hit the road last weekend for the Deep South's oldest rivalry.
The Deep South's oldest rivalry, Auburn taking the field at Sanford Stadium to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. Auburn coming into this game second in the SEC West and in control of its own destiny. Tough environment in Georgia, they would not let Auburn come into their stadium to try to win without first making them work hard. The Auburn offense struggled throughout the entire game. They were beat up, according to Malzahn. Sean White had not practiced in 2 weeks, and of course, Auburn was out with its leading rusher, Cameron Petway. Much of the load was given to Kerryon Johnson. He had 99 yards rushing in the game, and he was the only Auburn Tiger to make it into the end zone that night. Auburn up 7 heading into halftime. The second half, however, a completely different story. Auburn opened up the first drive of the half with a pick six thrown by Sean White. The Auburn defense stood strong throughout the entire game, only allowing 2 field goals by the Bulldogs and no touchdowns. That Auburn defense still has not allowed a single rushing touchdown in the last 7 games. Auburn down 13-7 with the final minutes of the game ticking. White attempted 4 passes to drive the team down the field, was unable to get a completion. Georgia would take over on downs and set up for victory formation.
Auburn was looking for their 7th straight victory of the season and their first here in Sanford Stadium against the Bulldogs since 2005. However, the Tigers were not able to come away with that victory as they're walking away here tonight losing to the Bulldogs 13-7.
In Athens, Casey Cooper, Eagle Eye Sports.
With that loss, Auburn is now 7-3 for the season and fell 6 spots to number 15 in the college football playoff rankings. The Tigers have their last home game of the season against Alabama A&M this Saturday at 6:30. The football team will be missing some players this week. Head coach Gus Malzahn announced that Cameron Petway, Chandler Cox, and Stanton Truitt will all be out on Saturday for the game against Alabama A&M. A total of 14 Auburn players will be out for the game. Malzahn also said he is unsure if Sean White will start after re-injuring his shoulder in the loss against Georgia. Stay tuned to see what's happening in the national world of sports. You're watching Tiger Tally on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
This is Auburn Feud with your host, J.J. Jackson.
It is! That's the number 4 answer. 19 points awarded to Theta. That 6th answer, they clogged the toilet.
Welcome back to the National Sports Block of Tiger Tally. I'm Casey Cooper. Tony Romo is humble about being Dak Prescott's backup. Romo speaks out at a press conference about him being number 2 to the rookie Prescott. He says that Prescott has earned his spot to be the Cowboys quarterback and that he is happy to have his back going forward with the team. Prescott has led the Cowboys to an 8-1 record since taking over for the injured Romo. 11 weeks into the NFL season and the first pick in this year's NFL draft is finally getting his first start. That's right, quarterback Jared Goff will be starting for the 4-5 Rams this Sunday when they play the Dolphins. Case Keenum was the starting quarterback up until Jeff Fisher made the switch. Keenum was surprised by the news of Goff getting the start on Sunday, saying, quote, "Honestly, I wasn't happy. I want to play. That's why I play football, to be the quarterback, to be the guy with the ball in his hands," end quote. Keenum has started the Rams' first 9 games and has led them to the lowest scoring offense in the NFL with 15.4 points per game. It might still feel like the NFL season just started, but it's time to really think about the playoffs. With the current standings, the Patriots lead the AFC, followed by the Chiefs, Texans, Ravens, Raiders, and Broncos. Those 6 teams would be in the playoffs. And for the NFC, the Dallas Cowboys are sitting at that number 1 spot. The other teams that follow them and would make the cut, the Seahawks, Falcons, Lions, Giants, and Redskins. Going into the home stretch of the NFL season, nothing is set in stone as teams are still playing for playoff spots and fighting the rest of the season for that home field advantage. In the NBA, it's still early in the season, but right now the Atlanta Hawks are the number 1 team in the East, and the Los Angeles Clippers are leading the pack in the West. Reigning Rookie of the Year, Karl Anthony Towns is also grabbing everyone's attention. So far this season, Towns has recorded 3 straight games of 20 points and 10 boards, and he has also had 5 games with a double-double. He is definitely putting up big man numbers so far this season. And some NBA matchups tonight include the New York Knicks at the Washington Wizards at 6, the Milwaukee Bucks at the Miami Heat at 6:30, the Portland Trail Blazers at the Houston Rockets at 7, the Philadelphia 76ers at the Minnesota Timberwolves at 7, and the Chicago Bulls at the Utah Jazz at 9:30. Red Sox pitcher Rick Porcello wins the AL Cy Young Award despite not receiving the most first-place votes. Nationals pitcher Max Scherzer wins the NL Cy Young Award. Scherzer becomes the 6th pitcher to win the Cy Young Award in both leagues after winning the AL Cy Young Award in 2013 with the Detroit Tigers. And coming up next, we'll check in to see how our fantasy football team's doing. You're watching Tiger Tally on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
Each year, Auburn University's Beat Bama Food Drive partners with the Food Bank of East Alabama to provide relief for food insecurity. Last year, we were able to raise 200,000 pounds of food, and now we need your help. We will be collecting cans from October 5th through November 20th. Get ready to help us fight food insecurity and beat Bama.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Bortles reclaims the top spot. The Olivias pull off an upset, as did many teams. My name is Meredith Brito, and this is the Fantasy Football Blitz on Tiger Tally. Here with me today is Micah, Erica, and Casey. How are you all feeling after your team's performance? Micah, lead us off.
That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say.
I'm not happy.
I'm pretty happy. I'm not last, and I just beat Jared this past week, so everything's good.
Last week caused a major shift in the rankings, with Honey Bunches of Oats and Enemy Long Time being handed a loss. Teenage Mutant Ninja Bortles was able to claim the top spot again. The Week 9 winners were me, Joey, Casey, Olivia, and Micah, who led the league in points for the week. This week will be our 11th week of fantasy football, which means there's only 2 weeks left of the regular season for us. Matchups this week will include my team, the Deckers, versus Enemy Long Time, One Last Shiva Blast versus the Best Team. It's On Like Gronky Kong versus Bill's Mafia, Honey Bunches of Oats versus Teamy McTeamface, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Bortles versus the Olivias. This time of year, our teams start looking much different than they did when we first drafted. Who has been your biggest pickup this season? Casey, you start.
My biggest pickup has definitely been Garrett Blunt, because he scores me touchdowns practically every week. Scored 3 this past week, so that was great. That was definitely what helped me get that victory.
Mine was, it wasn't really a pickup. It was more of he was suspended for 4 weeks and then Tom Brady got the start. So that was my biggest, improvement through the season. Although it did not help me last week. He did not throw a touchdown. Thanks a lot, Tom Brady. Yeah.
I guess you could, really my biggest player has been Ezekiel Elliott, and I guess you could say thank you, Olivia, for taking Adrian Peterson and forcing me to take Ezekiel Elliott. So, and then I'll find out too, I guess biggest free agent pickup will be potentially Alex Smith, who I picked up, because as much as I love you, Teenage Mutant Ninja Bortles, Blake Bortles not getting it done for me.
Now that we are playing the same team as we did in week 2, how do you plan on improving this time around, Erica?
So obviously I'm not going to have a week like week 2. There's absolutely no way. Tom Brady is playing out of his mind. He's not going to go 2 weeks without throwing a touchdown pass. Got a few injuries that could settle me back. Julian Edelman is limited practice. DeMarco Murray did not practice yesterday, but I really feel like they're going to end up playing the game. DeMarco Murray is always playing the game. Julian Edelman, he'll still be questionable. He was questionable on last Monday, and he did fine, so we'll see.
I think the biggest thing for me, my players have been very inconsistent, but luckily now that, we're already into halfway through the NFL season, they're starting to become a little more consistent, like Garrett Blunt and my quarterback Eli Manning. But I think now I have several people who are on IR. My running back, CJ Anderson, I miss him, and Jamal Charles. But I have picked up Rashad Jennings just in case I need an extra running back. So that's been what's different for me.
Yeah, just to say real quick, it was Sunday night. I don't know the days.
I mean, my team's just going to keep winning. I mean, that's what happened in week 2, and that's what's going to keep happening. So, I mean, not much has changed for me.
You lost to me.
Not in week 2.
And you lost to Team McTeam Face back to back.
I know, because I didn't check my lineup because I was undefeated at that point. Didn't care anymore about you scrubs.
As we go on break for week 11 and 12, week 13 means it's playoff time for our league. How do you like where you stand right now with the current playoff picture, and how do you see the bracket changing over the last 2 weeks? Erica, you start.
Well, right now I'm in that 2 spot. I didn't move from last week to the week before. I had a hard loss, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't move down in the rankings. Right now, my biggest challenges are going to be to take on the Deckers, who blew me away in the second week, but Tom Brady was not a part of that team. I had a lot of people not producing in the early years. Now all my players are consistently scoring touchdowns. It's going to be a whole different ball game. It's going to really boost me up. All I need is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Bortles to just barely get by. Even if they win both games, I'll jump them.
Well, for me, I guess the only good thing about being at the bottom is you don't have to go against really, really tough teams. And I feel like my team is so much better than like 8th place, or I think that's where I am. But I'm pretty confident going against the Olivias, and we'll see. I'm the dark horse. One last sheep at last, the dark horse.
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, you can have the 1 seed if you want. I'd rather be at the bottom end of the bracket, no offense, but against the Olivias or the Shiva Blast than I would be at the top of the bracket, which I am currently, against the Teamy McTeamy Face and Bills Mafia.
Hey, look, I look at it this way. Whoever's in that top bracket's got to play the best, and they got to prove they're the best. If they're the best, they're going to be the best. So whoever's in that top bracket, and they make it all the way to the end. So.
One more best, I think you win Yahtzee.
With most of the NFL in the books, who do you guys have as your current league MVP and Rookie of the Year, as well as your Super Bowl predictions? Casey, you start.
I think it's easy. Ezekiel Elliott is the MVP for this year. Although Dak Prescott, he's been really good for the Cowboys, it's just mainly been Ezekiel Elliott that's really made their offense explode. And as for the Super Bowl, I'm definitely going to have the Patriots in there. I mean, you can't go against Tom Brady. And then I'm going to put going against the Seahawks, and we'll have a rematch.
That's interesting. Right now, my league-wide MVP is going to be Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's playing out of his mind. I think he's playing so good football right now. For Rookie of the Year, I'm not going to give him Rookie of the Year. I'm going to give it to Dak Prescott because I'm going to give him the league-wide MVP. So I'm going to give Rookie of the Year to Dak Prescott. As far as Super Bowl goes, I think it's going to be Patriots on the AFC East. I think it's going to be the Cowboys on the NFC side. So we will see how that is actually going to go. It's going to be a great matchup. The Cowboys haven't been in the Super Bowl in a very, very long time, so we'll see. They're playing out of their mind, so.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give Zeke the clean sweep, and at the same time, where giving it to Dak Prescott makes sense because you give Zeke the league-wide MVP. If he got MVP for the entire league, he's clearly the Rookie of the Year, too. But so if I'm Dak, it's kind of like, okay, well, thanks for runner-up prize of Rookie of the Year. But I think those kids really all they care about right now is winning a Super Bowl, and that's been really fun to watch with them. It's hard not to pick the Patriots, and it's hard not to pick the Cowboys, but I'm just going to throw a dark horse out there right now. I think with how Tennessee's playing football right now, they could challenge a lot of teams, and the Oakland Raiders.
Oh, the Oakland Raiders, definitely. They are definitely the Raiders.
Let's move on to our Thursday night picks. Tonight we have the 4-5 New Orleans Saints that will travel to face the NFC South division rival 3-6 Carolina Panthers. Both teams have struggled on defense this season. What are your score predictions for this game, Micah?
Oh, score predictions?
Oh my God, whoa.
Can I get an over-under? That'd probably be better. Whatever the line is, I'm going to take the over. God, I'm going to say 28-38 Saints.
I'm going to go with a shootout. I think it's going to be like, 45-35 Saints.
Just random numbers. But I'm going to be different here. I am going to go...
Of course she's going to pick the Panthers.
37-30, the Carolina Panthers. They were so close to winning last week. I think they'll get their problems fixed.
She's a Cam Newton fan.
Maybe.
Now on to college football. Last week after Auburn fell to UGA, number 1, Alabama clinched the SEC West. This week will be key for a lot of other conference leaders hoping to clinch their division. We start off with the 9-1 Louisville Cardinals traveling to face the 8-2 Houston Cougars. The Cardinals and Heisman contender Lamar Jackson are coming off a 44-12 win over Wake Forest, while Houston is coming off a 30-18 win over Tulane. The spread favors Louisville by 14 points. Do you think Houston has a chance to stop the red-hot Cardinals offense?
Well, there's always a chance, but Lamar Jackson is just too good right now. I think they're going to eventually make the top 4 and get in the playoffs. That's a little foreshadowing for later, but I have Louisville in this game.
Yeah, I have Louisville in this game too. I wouldn't call them the red-hot offense. They did play Wake Forest last week, but Lamar Jackson has dropped from the beginning of the season of what he's been doing on the field, though I think that he will do fine in this game as far as moving forward. Yeah, I got Louisville.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's dropped from what he did earlier in the season, which was account for 8 touchdowns a game. So he's dropped more down to more human numbers of, I don't know, 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 touchdowns being responsible for.
Come on now.
Hey. But I think Louisville wins. This was a game earlier in the season. A lot of us were saying, hey, Houston versus Louisville, this is going to be a top 4 matchup to see who gets into the playoff. Cougars fell off the face of the planet, and Louisville had that one loss to Clemson. And a couple of close games since then. So I think I'm going to go with the Cardinals in this one.
Next, we have the Florida Gators traveling to face the LSU Tigers. The Gators are leading the SEC East after key wins against Missouri, Georgia, and South Carolina, while LSU rebounded after their loss to Alabama to beat the Razorbacks 38-10. The spread favors LSU by 13.5 points. How do you see this game going?
Well, first off, I'm glad that they were able to schedule this game because it's definitely a critical game for the SEC. So I'm really excited to watch it, but just because it's an LSU, I'm going to go with the Tigers.
I'm not exactly happy that this game is in Death Valley. It's always a hard game. It's always a hard contest, especially the Florida LSU. Historically, Florida always wins in Death Valley. Only in recent years have they lost in Death Valley. Usually when Florida was a top 5 national championship team, they were winning and destroying LSU in Death Valley. Don't think they have what it takes now. Who's going to start? Del Rio, Appleby, you never know. I think it's Appleby this time. Mm-hmm. Their defense is just they're not as good as they have been in recent years. They're not as good as they started out in the season. They got LSU's got Leonard Fournette back. Leonard Fournette is playing hard football right now. Had they played them when Hurricane Matthew came through and Leonard Fournette was still out, I'd give it to the Gators. Unfortunately, it breaks my heart. I'm going with the LSU Tigers.
Yeah, if I'm Coach Orgeron, I am putting in game film of the Arkansas game and saying, hey, this is what we got to do. This is the recipe. And if there's a team that can replicate what Arkansas did, it's LSU. And they have Leonard Fournette in the backfield. I just don't think Florida offensively right now is good enough to get it done. And I think Tennessee's now going to be squeaking into the SEC championship game,
just
which
awful.
Makes no sense.
It's awful. It is. It's trash.
After coming off a close 45-44 win over Texas Tech, the Oklahoma State Cowboys have a tough test ahead of them as they travel to face the TCU Horned Frogs, who are returning to the field after defeating Baylor 66-22. The spread favors TCU by 4.5 points. What are your predictions?
I think this is actually going to be a really close game. I can see why TCU would be favored in this, but I still think Oklahoma State's going to come away with that victory.
I'm going to Oklahoma State. The Cowboys are going to blow it up. They're going to show off the 4.5 favor to TCU. I just think that the Cowboys offense is it's a lot better than TCU's right now. Even though they had a close game versus Texas Tech, that's not really showing how they are. I'm not going with the Horned Frogs. I have a feeling you are. I mean, you're wearing purple. You're wearing LSU. You picked LSU. I mean, I don't even understand.
All the purple teams.
It's purple and yellow, even though I know this is Minnesota Vikings. But
I actually walked into Publix the day after the LSU game, and the lady was like, War Eagle. And I was like, this is a Vikings jersey. Like, just get off my back. And just to clarify, it's go Pokes, and then go Frogs. Cowboy, that's just the saying, go Pokes. Okay, just for future reference so you know.
Hey, we learned something new.
There you go. Yeah, no, I'm just trying to help you out. Go Pokes.
Okay,
instead of Cowboy. As much as I want to pick TCU and my boy Kenny Trill, which not a lot of people remember, at TCU, I'm going to go with the Cowboys as well. I think they've been playing very good football these past few weeks, winning some big games. They got most of the momentum, so I'm going to go with the Pokes.
He actually agreed with us.
Wow, for what?
I'm picking the Pokes. I'm not picking the Cowboys.
Now on to a game where two teams came in unranked in the preseason and are now in the top 25 of the AP poll. The number 20 Washington State Cougars, who are coming off a 56-21 win over Cal Berkeley, are heading over to face the number 12 Colorado Buffaloes, who handed Arizona a 49-24 loss. The spread is in favor of Colorado by 4.5 points. Do you think Washington State could pull off an upset?
I think after last week having all those upsets, no more upsets this week. Everything's going to be back to normal just for this one weekend. So Colorado coming off that big victory against Arizona.
No. I wouldn't agree with that statement that there's going to be no more upsets. I think there's going to be a few upsets this weekend. No, it's going to happen. It's college
She
football.
already gave away her pick for next week in the Auburn Alabama
Exactly.
game, so.
Basically, it's just she's saving all her magic for next week. It's
safe.
not going to happen.
Wow, well, there we go. You heard it here
Upset.
first.
Upsets are definitely in favor this week, as they are every week. As far as this game, I'm going to go with Washington State. I think that they are going to pull off the upset. A lot of people underestimate them, especially Colorado. They're kind of getting in a bigger head right now, moving up in the rankings. They're getting close. They're smelling that playoff spot. If they keep winning, it's going to catch up to them. It's not going to be a good sign for them. I think Washington State's going to surprise them.
Yeah, I as much as I want to pick Colorado, and I do enjoy watching them play football, Colorado hasn't beaten anyone. The teams that they've played, they're Michigans, they just haven't looked good against them entirely. And you got to credit them for playing those schedules and then, having a strong stretch here. I have watched Washington State play, and I think if they lost, that their head coach would put somebody in a locker for 5 days like he did at Texas Tech. Shots fired. But I do think Washington State wins, and then there's going to be that battle for the top part of the bracket for who goes to the Pac-12 championship game between Washington and Washington State.
Next, possibly the game of the week. The number 8 Oklahoma Sooners are traveling to face the number 10 West Virginia Mountaineers. Both teams have 8 wins on the season. The spread favors Oklahoma by 3 points. How do you see this game going?
Well, this is obviously going to be another really close game, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma.
This one's going to be actually probably one of the better games of the weekend other than Florida LSU. I think that one's going to be probably the top game of the weekend. It's really hard. That spread is only 3 points. My spread in my head right now is only 3 points, but I got West Virginia winning.
Oklahoma, where that win, whatever. You guys got to watch a musical for once. I'm going to Oklahoma on that one.
After a loss to UGA, the number 18 Auburn Tigers are hoping a rebound against the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. How do you see this game going?
Well, Auburn's obviously not going to have starters because most of our starters are currently hurt. We'll see if Sean White starts. I mean, I think it'd be best, just to leave him out and give him that rest before the Iron Bowl. So this is an easy game, Auburn, obviously.
14 players missing off that offense. That's why we did this, not 5. 14 players missing from Auburn's offense, but I still think they're going to beat the Bulldogs. So let's go Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to pick Auburn in this one, but I don't think the question is whether or not we win the game. The question is how do we look? Because to be quite frank, we looked like not good. Not good last week against Georgia. We got to look better on offense. Defense, I'm not worried about it. But, we go to Tuscaloosa, so if we can't figure something out offensively, that we seem to have our identity and now it vanished, we got to figure that out before we head there or else, yikes.
Now that you've predicted your college pick 6, here's the real burning question, and don't afraid to be bold. But who do you have in your top 4 to compete in the college football playoff rankings? Casey, you're up first.
Ooh, this is a tough one because I really don't know, so I'm just going to put something out there. Alabama is obviously number 1. I mean, there's no reason to not have them number 1 right now at this point in the season. Number 2, I'm going to leave it at Ohio State. I think they're going to make it into the playoffs. And number 3 is where I'm really not sure about. I feel like Michigan State or either Penn State, one of those teams in the same conference, is going to find their way in there somehow. And then number 4, Louisville.
I want to be clear.
Michigan State.
Michigan, right?
You said Michigan.
Yeah,
No, you said Michigan State.
It's okay. I knew what you meant. I knew what you meant. We got it.
So Alabama,
Texas State,
Ohio State, Michigan.
There you go.
For clarity, Louisville. I'm going to see Alabama go against Lamar Jackson.
I'm a little bit different. Yeah, obviously Alabama number 1. That's a consensus, I hope. As of right now,
might have something.
As of right now, like as the season ended today, it would be Alabama at number 1.
If the season ended right now, I'd be willing to bet it'd be the top 4 that the committee released to make it in the playoff.
Anyways, no, I'm not going to say if the season ended today, but like through the end of the season, I think Alabama will make it in there because Ohio State and Michigan have to play each other. And right now, according to the playoff committee, they're 2 and 3. I'm going to actually drop Ohio State out. I'm going to put Michigan at number 2, Clemson at number 3, and just because of a head-to-head, that's the only reason why, because I believe Louisville is a better team than them, but I will put them in that 4 spot. Those are my picks. So it's going to be Alabama, Michigan when they beat Ohio State, Clemson and Louisville. Only Clemson at number 3 because of the head-to-head matchup that they had versus Louisville.
Yeah, I think 1 is Bama at a lock. Obviously, the only Power 5 team that's still undefeated, so that's a no-brainer. Number 2 is going to be interesting for me. I do think that Ohio State wins against Michigan, but here's where it gets tricky. So you put Ohio State at 2, therefore they have to hope and pray that Penn State loses to either Michigan State or Rutgers. Probably not going to happen. So Penn State goes to the Big Ten championship game. If they win, what does the committee do? Because Big Ten obviously is one of the best conferences of the Power 5. So they try and reward them and get a little Big Ten bias. I'm trying to get that started instead of SEC bias. Get that started and put them in at 4, and then maybe either a Louisville or a Clemson at 3. That's just kind of what I'm thinking right now. I'm trying to figure that Big Ten, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with them.
Yeah, definitely. And I know even if Alabama loses the SEC championship, I know it is a long haul, not going to happen.
If it's good.
But I still think Alabama makes it in.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Yes. No matter if they lose, they win. All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Tiger Tally. Next week, we will not have a show due to Thanksgiving. We all got to be thankful for that. We get to eat food. But we will return.
This show. That's what I'm thankful for this year. We're not recording.
But we will return on December 1st. It's going to be our final episode of the fall semester. We'll have all you need to know and more as we head into the holiday season. It's going to be festive, so you don't want to miss it. For everyone here at Tiger Tally and Eagle Eye TV, happy Thanksgiving and War Eagle.
It's Christmas.